We're always laser focused on the shortstop position, a premier position, and attention must be paid. Joel Sherman on the inside corner. Good morning to you. I think after the 2021 season where we saw Semien and Story and Seager and Baez and Correa kind of find homes, we sat back and watched. But you and I were talking in the commercial break. You said there's the next wave coming.
Look, and there was this was the two most star-studded free agent classes ever, right? You mentioned 2 years ago, Correa was back out, Swanson, Trey Turner. This has been that. Wait for 2027-28. About half the league shortstops have broken in the last 2 years. And by the way, there's a whole other class coming. Jordan Lawler, Jackson Holliday, Marcelo Meyer. So, you know, it's really a shortstop time right now.
You know, you were talking about, well, the Yankees weren't in on them. We'll start there because they knew they had Anthony Volpe, right? That was their plan long term.
They thought Volpe and Peraza, and in some ways, you probably, if you had Yankee officials on Truth Serum, I think some of them would have thought Peraza at shortstop, Volpe at second because of Peraza's defense. One of the revelations this year is Volpe has had some struggles on offense is just how good his defense has been. You know, he's got a high baseball IQ. He knows how to use his arm. It's not an A-level arm, but he's true with it all the time. Quick hands, quick range into the game. And really, there's a before or after with him. He had really struggled to about the second week in June. And, you know, look, the Yankees fired a coach for the first time during Brian Cashman's 25 years, their hitting coach. Austin Wells helped cure Anthony Volpe. They had chicken parmesan at Anthony Volpe's parents' house. And since then, if you go look at his numbers since then, they look a lot like Bobby Witt Jr.'s numbers last season. And Bobby Witt has made 2 steps forward this year. I wonder if that's coming for Volpe next year.
To your point, I was at Yankee spring training, and there was conversation about Volpe at second base, and it has evolved for that not to be the case. The Yankees chose Volpe over Gunnar Henderson back in 2019, right? Gunnar fell to the 42nd.
First pick of the second round, Volpe was the 28th pick overall in the draft.
And Gunnar, I mean, he looks the part and he backs it up, Joel.
Yeah, well, for the Yankees, shame, the Yankees had a second first-round pick that year from the Sonny Gray trade. They could have had both guys. Henderson ends up there. And if you were thinking about what team is set up best for shortstop for the next 5-10 years, I would look at Baltimore. Gunnar Henderson has broken through. We've seen a little of Jordan Westburg. And, you know, Matt Holliday's son here, he's the best prospect in the game.
He's coming next year.
He's coming next year. They have Mateo. I assume Mateo won't be here next year. Joey Ortiz is a good utility man. I think if you put the Orioles on Truth Serum now and said, who's playing shortstop for the future, Holliday, Henderson, Westburg, they'd say, we're going to sit and watch, but that's why second base and third base are around also. I think that's their infield moving forward.
What would your answer to that question?
Well, I haven't, I've only seen Henderson really play. I've seen Mateo could play the heck out of shortstop. Again, he's not going to be there. I really think they're thinking of it as, hey, we'll get 1,800 plate appearances out of these guys. We'll figure it out. I'd like to have the problem. I'm sure Mike Elias loves that this is their problem moving forward. Which of their talented young infielders play shortstop, second, and third?
Joel, you have the Mariners on this list. Whenever J.P. Crawford's name comes up, Robert is a huge fan. He says he's underrated in every sense of the word. I was looking at the contract. Holy, team friendly, and he is a stud. Coming out party this year, really.
Well, the defense was always there, Lauren, and this year, I think he's got 17 homers. He's got, I wrote it down here, it's like an 823 OPS, 81 walks. That's one of the ones that surprises me a little bit. He's on a 5-year, $51 million contract, and if you think about it, one of the reasons they're able to go out and get, the high-end starter from Cincinnati is they're sitting there with Noelvi Marte and Arroyo, 2 of the better shortstop prospects in the sport. You see how they end up with Luis Castillo. If you're going to trade Marte and Arroyo, and I think that inside Seattle, they weren't sure Marte is a shortstop long-term, but they think Arroyo is a shortstop long-term. They wanted Castillo, but they knew they had Crawford, and they have Crawford on a great team-friendly deal.
And J.P. Crawford's talked about going to driveline and working on his swing and kind of putting in the work. What about my Nationals? Ooh, I like this. CJ Abrams. At the time, Joel, of the Juan Soto deal, what did they think that CJ Abrams was going to do for them? Because I feel like we won't know the scope of this for years.
We won't know the scope of this for years because I think, again, today, I keep using Truth Serum. If we had all the Washington people here, I think they'd say that was a Robert Hassel, James Wood trade. Those are the young outfielders who are still in the minor leagues. They got Mackenzie Gore. In some ways, I think Abrams was the fourth player, big prospect in that trade. And they were just at Citi Field. I talked to a bunch of the coaches there. They really seem to love him. Since they moved him to the leadoff spot, he's hit a little better. I think there's always the pop is a little surprising. The speed isn't. He has a chance to be a 20-20, 25-25 kind of guy. The question is, low walks, high strikeouts. Does he stay at shortstop or have to move off of it to maybe second base? But the bat seems like it's going to play here.
Plus, he's 22 years old, so
Yes.
questions are pretty much normal. The Braves let Dansby Swanson go. D-Row kind of documented him and his success on the north side of Chicago. Let's check out Time to Shine, presented by Oris. I mean, what was their plan when they let Dansby go? Because they get so much production for such, I mean, relatively little money and at every position, Joel.
They're an amazing organization. They let Freddie Freeman go, and they ended up with Matt Olson. They let Dansby Swanson go, and I think the plan was Vaughn Grissom or
That was the plan, right?
Braden Shoemake. And they kept watching it in spring training, and to their credit, they didn't get locked in on a theory. We're going with a kid, we're going with a kid. They kept looking at Arcia and their coaches. I remember talking to Walt Weiss about a month ago about this, their bench coach. He's like, we knew he would defend. Okay. He's a great guy. His head's in the game. We're definitely going to get the defense. We feel we have so much offense around him. And he's still only 28. He's actually in his prime. And there's a point where Arcia was one of the better prospects in the game. What if he's kind of ready to do a little more? Well, he was ready to do a little more. He made the All-Star team this year. He's part of this very, very strong offense. And by the way, we were talking about J.P. Crawford's contract. After this year, this guy has 3 years at $6 million, not $6 million a year. 3 years at $6 million left on his contract. If his 2026 option is included, at the worst, he's a great utility man. At his best, he was an all-star shortstop this year.
We're looking at the next decade of great Braves baseball. We're seeing it in front of our eyes. Joel Sherman's going to stick around. Thanks so much.